Dealer. We have everything you need for any size garage in any situation. PNRentrydoors.com.
Michael Devine and Janece Valentine, now at AM 1400 KVFD.
That sounds pretty exciting. What do you think, Janece? No, at AM
I'm
1400.
I'm going to rethink my garage, I guess. Yeah.
Janece Valentine is a local attorney here in town. She practices primarily in workers' compensation and personal injury. There is no fee for a first consultation. Janece Valentine is at Valentine Law Office, PC, jvalentine at valentinelaw.net. You may reach her office by calling 515-955-5544. She's at 415 the Boston Center, 809 Central Avenue here in Fort Dodge, and at www.valentinelaw.net. All right. I don't think I'm going anywhere this weekend, Janece. I thought about it, but the weather kind of decided for me that I was going to stay home. So, okay.
Well, we're all used to it, though. I mean, this isn't something new. It's not like our exciting weekend plans fell through for the first time.
No, that's the truth. A lot of people say, 2020 was so bad. Well, as far as I was concerned, 2020 was boring. And that's, even though I had the COVID and a couple other things went wrong, I mean, it was just don't close all the bars and restaurants and tell me to go home. I hate that. I just hate that. Janece, there's a couple of things I want to bring up with you. First of all, I'm a free speech absolutist. I really, really do believe, with the exception of yelling fire in a crowded theater and things like that, that we should be able to say, anybody should be able to say and think whatever they wish. Now, if we can't do that, we are less than free. And I realize that we live in a community called the United States, and that words do have meaning and consequences. And having said that, I'm more than a little troubled over Twitter's decision to suspend Donald Trump from all its platforms. As a matter of fact, this whole thing is catching on. Other platforms, Facebook, are shutting Donald Trump down. Now, free speech is supposed to protect all of us, but it's also supposed to protect the worst of us. I'll throw that out for the Trump haters, okay? Free speech, like it or not, even covers a guy like Donald Trump or anybody else, any other political figure, celebrity figure, or well-known figure, including me, that you may not like. And I'm on board with that. I am 100% on board. Now, Jack Dorsey, who looks like the oldest teenage 45-year-old I've ever seen in my life, Jack Dorsey of Twitter put out a statement today because there's considerable blowback to his decision. Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned, won the presidency with Twitter, which is another amazing thing about Donald Trump. But Jack Dorsey came out today and said, I know my decision was difficult. As a matter of fact, it sets a dangerous precedent. It does. This sets, because if they can silence Trump like that, they can, even though Trump, I'm not making any excuses for him. He's just the guy that nobody likes at the time. Next year, it might be Biden or anybody. Right. The media has a tendency to demonize certain people and make heroes out of the rest. So Trump will be gone. So the next bad guy or girl or political figure or celebrity, do we kick them off too? You're an attorney. What do you think about, again, the First Amendment is the First Amendment. It's the first one. The rest. Yeah,
and we'd like to think it's first for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree that it is first for a reason. I don't want to get too far afield here, but like when we look at the commandments, you look at usually the first one is the most important one, and I agree with you to the extent that we have to protect free speech at almost all costs, absent hate crime speech, is actionable, as well as like you have pointed out, you cannot yell fire in a crowded room and expect not to have some consequences. But that highlights, again, what you were saying, too. Words do have consequences. That doesn't mean we should shut people down. but words have consequences. And, we do need to keep in mind, at least I'm talking mostly to my Facebook constitutional scholars right now. Okay? But we do need to keep in mind there is a difference between a government entity and what is protected versus a private entity. And so we're not necessarily talking about First Amendment rights when it comes to a private entity that would be considered Twitter, although, there are arguments to be made that is Twitter really private?
Exactly.
Because,
I just want to stop you, and I apologize for doing this. I want to let you have your say, absolutely. But should we allow a private company to shut down the president of the United States?
yeah, and there again, they can shut down you or me too. And I haven't had this happen, but I've had friends that have had Facebook posts that have been removed. I don't know what was in that content that was objectionable, if it was. But, I think what's happening too is some of these platforms are recognizing the ill that can happen when you have rampant falsehoods being shared repeatedly. And when we have foreign entities interfering in this process.
Let me take that up with you as well.
Yeah.
Dorsey did not ban Donald Trump from Twitter for his remarks just before the disgraceful attack on the Capitol. He banned Trump because Trump lies. Well, duh. He's been lying for 5 years.
I agree.
And by the way, you can take a look at almost any political figure in this country today, past, present, doesn't make any difference. I can guarantee you I can find numerous instances where how should I'll put it the way my mother used to put it. They fudged the truth, Janece. Don't fudge the truth. Well, fudging the truth means you lied. And Nancy Pelosi I've started bashing her lately. I've almost ignored her all these years. But Nancy Pelosi doesn't seem to speak for the country. She seems to speak for the Democratic Party. Now, as in her job as leader of the House of Representatives, Speaker of the House, and as a party leader, that's her job. But the party position of the Democrat or Republican Party is not the truth. Those are activist positions. Activists like Pelosi or any of the Republicans you care to name, they're not going to speak ill of their own positions and their own party. They are going to spin. And spinning is kind of like fudging the truth. So should those people be removed?
I'm with you, Mike. And that it's not just speakers of the party. It's us as citizens having dialogues about these issues as well. We all know we have those friends that post things that we look at and we're like, oh my gosh, like they know that that's not true, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But for many people, the truth is very malleable. And I think we're seeing that more and more. And you and I have had that conversation before where, if we can't agree on facts, that puts us in a difficult spot. If we're not going to believe facts, now what we do with those facts, we may disagree on greatly, but we kind of have to start at a base point of agreeing on what reality is, and we don't have that right now.
No, we don't. And I have a theory. Do you mind? And
I'd love to hear it.
I'm interrupting you way too much today. I'm sorry. My theory is that we've grown so cynical and jaded about our political figures and their nonstop lies. I mean, I could go back to President Johnson and the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. Richard Nixon, my God, what a world-class liar. Gerald Ford wasn't around for me to really know. Jimmy Carter was a born-again guy, but he fudged the truth. And then we got Reagan and his Contras business. I mean, we all grew up with this. We don't believe them anymore. And if somebody says, well, Ronald Reagan said this or Barack Obama said that, there's going to be a group of people that jump up on one side or the other and say, well, they're lying because they lied before. You know what, Janece? That's the truth.
And it is, there is too much truth to that. And, we see it in our legislative situation where if a bill is raised by, Democrat, then it's a bad bill for Republicans. And if a bill is raised by a Republican, well, then it automatically has to be a bad bill for Democrats. We've lost sight of who really is at the heart of this, and it's us. Again,
Yes.
it goes back to us. And I really wish we could get back to, is this bill a good idea or a bad idea? Not what flavor it is, but is it a good or a bad idea? And we have lost that. And I don't know how we get our way back. I do not see a way back until both sides take a hard look. And I think both sides are losing people, because I had this conversation with a friend of mine just earlier this week. I think most of us are what I would say in the middle. I really do believe the majority of America is in the middle, and yet none of us are represented because none of us can either run or get elected because we're not extreme enough for a party to take us on.
And nobody likes to be played for a fool. Nobody likes to say this candidate is really good, and then and very honest, and you find out he or she is not. And then you got to go before your friends and go, well, gosh, I was wrong. They're liars. Nobody likes to. That really, I think that was one of the things that motivated those crazoids at the Capitol. They just felt fooled for so long and lied to for so long that they flipped out. There's no excuse for their behavior. None. I'm not trying to make an excuse. Please believe me. But it's like we're tired of it. We're tired of all this BS. Both parties, give us the truth. We can handle it. And to your point, I think most people are decent people. We're not morons. I mean, you can tell us the truth. We can take it. Come on, give it to us.
Right. And I think very few of us think on the extremes. I mean, if you look at the parties, both sides again, I think very few of my friends fall on the extremes. There are some, but very few fall on it. Most of us are a big lump of coal in the middle that just are shaking our heads going, where did we get left behind? And again, I really do believe that's the majority of people.
Well, I feel passionate about this subject. And again, I apologize for interrupting you all these times, but I'm trying to.
Well, you're getting those lungs worked. You gotta work them. That's healthy for you.
Yes, it is. It renews my spirit. What is your definition of an extremist conservative or conservative extremist, or however you want to say it?
Well, I probably could take my mom. I lived it. There is no free lunch. Although, if you look at Republican platforms of old, they look a lot like Democratic platforms of today. I don't know if you've taken a look at those, but it's rather shocking when you read what was proposed years ago. And you look at some of the policies of both sides, you would think, oh, that would have had to have been done. Like the civil rights, you would think, well, that would probably be a Democrat. Well, not so much always. Or, a lot of Clinton's policies, and you and I have talked about this, a lot of his policies look very Republican.
Oh yeah, he was a right winger on the economy, I think.
Yeah, and so an extremist to me, I guess, their policies would be very, I would like to say limited government, although that's been morphing over time. I think we've seen with the spending in the last couple of years, clearly fiscal responsibility has changed with the party, in my opinion. So I think both parties are having a bit of an identity crisis, trying to figure out where they are at right now. And honestly, I'm not trying to beat him up any more than he's already been beat up, but I think Trump has only heightened that identity crisis, because I think within the party itself, you've got a big divide on who's willing to go there and who just said, I have to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and this is where it's at.
Describe an extremist from the left or from the liberal side.
Well, the classic is, everything's free. Well, and ironically, I open this up. I get emails every once in a while, like, take this survey from the Republican Party, and I don't know. It's a nationally generated one. This isn't local. So, but I opened up the survey, and my first question was, which do you identify as, Republican or socialist?
Republican or socialist? Wow.
Yeah, that was on the survey, and I'm like, well, this isn't jaded at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But those are my choices. I could register or let them know I felt like I was a Republican or I felt like I was a socialist.
My definition of extremism, frankly, is anybody who believes deeply in violence. I know that violence can work, but it should be only at the very last resort. Only at the very last. Right? And, Nazi Germany is always the
right.
example I go to. They had to be defeated. We had to go to
We
war.
had to go to war.
We just had to. And we may have to do that with North Korea. They're very evil. Those are, and please, ladies and gentlemen, I admit candidly, I'm so glad I don't make those decisions.
Oh, no doubt. And I think we also need to remind ourselves, too, I don't believe North Koreans are evil.
Oh, no.
I think their leaders are making very bad decisions.
I spent some time overseas, 18 months overseas in Southeast Asia when I was a very young man, and I'll tell you, most of the people there, the vast majority just wanted to grow rice and be left alone. We just want to eat. Thank you. We'd like some shelter. We don't need a car or anything that you Americans have. We just, want enough food to be comfortable in a shack.
And maybe not be killed by your government.
Maybe not be killed.
It's a minor thing to ask, but it's kind of a big one too.
Yeah, could you be careful while you and the VC are shooting it out in our front yard? I mean, it was a terrible thing. I mean, always the civilians suffer. Always, it's just terrible. It's always terrible. Janece Valentine, a local attorney, is our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We're talking free speech implications. I really, and I'm going to throw this out to you here in the last few minutes. By the way, Ann Meyer and Tim Cranebrink will be in here pretty soon, so I guess I'm loading up for them. But I don't think decisions like Jack Dorsey made should be left to a private company. I have a lot of trouble with that. I mean,
I agree, and I do. Regardless of what you think about him, it's a very, very slippery slope. Probably not words we should want to say today with the weather going on outside right now, but it's a very slippery slope. Like you say, when is that line drawn? I mean, and I don't know the extent of the content of the tweets that were taken down. I mean, if indeed Donald Trump was inciting violence and rioting within our own government and our capital, I do believe that's something that anybody that's making those statements needs to be wary of. And we do have a heightened protection for governmental systems like that. But if it was simply, repeating that, the election was rigged, it was taken away from me, those types of things, well, for me and mine, that's a lie. It was not rigged. It was not taken away.
No, it wasn't. No, come on.
But I feel that he should have the right to say those things. I mean, that's what we have the First Amendment for. So
where he really got in trouble was that speech Wednesday morning. That was inflammatory, and it incited a riot at a very dangerous time in a very dangerous area. There's no excuse to have our representatives, even Nancy Pelosi, being sheltered and hidden and crouching in fear somewhere. That's an outrage. And he bears... Well,
and putting all of our staff at risk. Yes. I mean, it wasn't just the senators and representatives. We're talking about janitors and Capitol Police. And,
surely.
Just everybody that's involved in the makings of our government. And in fact, I would make the argument is maybe even stronger for those people because they didn't sign up for that kind of crap. Yeah. That's not what they expect when they show up for work. And we saw some true heroes that day, and that's sad that they were heroes in that event. But thankfully they were there to save what we could.
Facebook, Twitter are nationwide communication platforms. Parler is, I guess, going out of business because Amazon took them off their web service, which I think is, I never seen Parler. I don't know what they do there, but I'm a little surprised by that. But I don't think these, if somebody here in the radio station is using racist and sexist language or inciting trouble, they're gone. And I don't have any problem with that. I mean, this is a private business and you don't do that. Or if you go downtown to any store or company in this city, private company, and that sort of language is going on, fire them. But this social media companies, they are definitely different. And the president of the United States is in a special category. And all major politicians are. I don't know what else to say, Janece. This is just when you thought it couldn't get any stranger or more troubling, it does. So if Joe Biden is boring, I welcome it.
I think we're ready for a little boring. I'm pretty cool with that right now.
I am too.
Yeah,
Janece,
we need to get back to some civility and normalcy, whatever that looks like.
Janece Valentine's been our guest. Thank you so much, Janece.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there.
You too. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Ever wonder what to do with the hazardous materials around your home? The North Central Iowa Regional Solid Waste Agency can help. We'll take just about anything you find anywhere in your home, whether it's under the kitchen sink or in